This is Jeff Clark, and you're watching the Break It Down show.
Just a couple of veterans talking about stuff. One of the things I've been doing this a long time. Obviously, you've got a fantastic show as well.
Thank you.
And I, for the most part, don't say, "Oh, I'm Pete, I'm a veteran." Like I've taken the Letterman jacket off, and like it's not that I'm not a veteran, but I don't have a hat. I don't.
Yeah.
With that said, there are a bunch of stickers on my truck that say "Save the Brave," but that's because I support a specific charity, and there's. But other than that, like I'm just not the prototypical veteran at all. I don't talk about it. It's not something that I like. Yeah, I got it. Let's go on to other things. But it's just I've gotten away from that. I didn't go to SHOT Show, and someone's like, "Are you going to SHOT Show?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not going to SHOT Show." There's a lot of different kinds of veterans. I don't know about where you fit in the whole veteran universe, but where do you fit into the veteran universe? Would you say?
I don't think I use it like I used to either. I used to say, "Oh yeah, I'm a veteran," and then I think it got to a point where I was like, "Okay, saying it is only doing so much." And if I want to be a proud veteran, what am I doing to help out other veterans and help out with the transition and stuff like that? So then I got to a point where I quit saying it and I started being about it, and
Mm,
I started doing things and taking phone calls with fellow vets and lending my time.
yeah,
Because if I'm going to waste my time saying I'm a veteran, well, I could be using that same time to help. So I
right.
started doing that more so. Not that I'm better than anybody or used in a different way. I just kind of
Yeah.
thought about it logically and said, instead of beating my fist on the table, I could be doing something different.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, we all can complain or do whatever it is, but we all have our work to do, our role to do. Like one of our favorite things to complain about is the VA, and there's a lot to complain about. There's also a lot to be like, hey, it's a lot better than it used to be. And
Oh
then
yeah,
if you are going to complain, it's on us to use the system, to push the system. Like right now, tomorrow, I'm going to go see a dude who's in the system, and he wants to work and help me to work within the system. And I'm like, you're right. I'm going to do it. And it hurts my rehab. But what helps me is, among other things, is I have a back problem. And so everybody agrees I have this back problem and that it's not going away.
yeah,
And so they're like, pills, epidurals, what would you like? And I'm like, how about the things that work? Massage, aquatherapy, these things tend to help me. And they're like, yeah, but budget. And if you get that, then everybody will. I'm like, those budget and everybody wanting it, not my problem. I'm just telling you what works. And they're like,
exactly.
yeah, but and they're like, it's money. And I'm like, these are not my problem.
Yeah.
When I had to grab my shit, ruck up, shut up, and go, I did those
Nobody
things.
complained about a budget then.
Right.
Yeah. And the biggest problem with our country is the
Yeah.
fact that we found out that it was cheaper to glamorize veterans than it was to take care of them.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
much cheaper to say, I love veterans than it is
Yeah.
to put the pen to paper and say, I really love veterans. They're going to get that aqua therapy. They're going to get those massages. We're not just going to be a pill mill, which,
Yeah.
not to get on my soapbox about it, but, I take 8 pills a day. I
Yeah.
don't do any kind of therapy. There could be things I could be doing, but that's not often,
Right. Yeah.
so, you know,
That's right. And this is the thing, though, that we're talking about here. Like, so I can say, I'm a proud veteran. I got my grunt style shirt, not attacking grunt style, but like there is that prototypical person. And I'm saying what I'm going to do is, when I find veterans who are like, you want to complain, I'm like, are you going to complain? You got to get to work. Do you need help? If you need help, I'll help you get help, but you got to do the work, like all of these other things. And then I have to put my mouth, where the work is. And so
mhm,
tomorrow I'm going to go see this dude and I'll be like, how are we going to work this? And he's going to push back. He's going to say, here's what my bosses have a problem with. And I'll be like, put your bosses in front of me. Because I'm going to say denial of services. Don't give a fuck about your budget. Don't give a fuck about what anybody else wants. Here's what works for me. I don't have to put pills in my body. Don't need to puncture my epidural space. Here's what works. And I'm
yeah.
tired of having to fight you guys. And so that's my job, is to help the next person out, because this is the cost of sending people to combat, right?
It's the cost of having military. It's the cost of having
Yeah.
wars. It's the cost of having
Yeah.
conflict. It doesn't just cost to go to conflict. It costs to come home from conflict, and then it costs
Right. Right
for
now, I gotta move my
generations.
body because my back is hurting. Yeah. Yeah, and I haven't had a treatment on my back since December, right? Because I ran out of treatments. Oh, Pete, you didn't run out of treatments. You just used them up too fast. And I'm like, did
Maybe I
I?
need more
Yeah.
authorizations more often. Maybe that's the
Oh,
sign
but
to you.
yeah, right. And like, well,
Do
you only
some
get
real
12 a year.
medicine and think about it for a second. If I'm using it more often, maybe I need more of it. That's a medical
Yeah.
diagnosis. If
Yeah.
I can come
Oh
up with
my
that
gosh.
right now, then it shouldn't be hard
Yeah.
for a professional in a room. But I
Yeah. Oh,
digress.
but Jeff, you only get 12 a year. And I'm like, but I have a back the whole year. And
Yeah,
we all
whole year.
agree that I have this permanent problem. So, but you only get 12 a year. And I'm like, that's not true because last year I had more than 12. You guys just fucking sweated me on it for,
Yeah.
and then they're like, oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. So these are the things where we all fit into our little niche and we all work on our problems.
Yep. You're
What
absolutely right.
problems do you want to work on? Like what's something that's solvable that like if we just worked on it, we could change something.
Like physical or
Sure,
just like about
whatever.
the
Like
VA in general.
VA or just in the veteran world. Like what do we need to fix internally within our own landscape, the veterans world?
We got to stop shitting on each other. I see it
I like it.
so often that I see people just dogging on each other. They'll just talk shit about another veteran because they're jealous or whatever they are of what they're doing, and they're not willing to go out and do it for themselves. They're just willing to talk to trash. And it's like we have to stop dogging each other and talking trash and all that, and actually extending a hand and say, hey man, how did you do that? Because I want to do that and I need some
Mm,
help with it. Because you'll be shocked at the amount of help that you'll get in
mm,
return because it's not a competition. And also, dude, this is how I
yeah.
did it. Hey, I got some old microphones and stuff like that. Man, I'll just give it to you. Get started. Like you're wasting your time talking trash
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
could be about the action and ask for help, and you'd be shocked at the amount of help that you'll receive. But instead, people just continue to talk trash, and we're the only ones who help each other. We're the only
Yeah.
ones who do that. Other communities don't do that. Our community is willing to help each other out because we know that the shit sandwich that we've been given by the government and by the VA, and that these programs that are mandatory because congressmen are checking the box, like we know that. We know that better
Mm,
than anybody else yet. We will stab each other in the back, and I see it all the time. And that's the one thing we have to fix. We got to fix it, and then those strength in numbers. Then we'll be able to come to the hill and say, we're tired of this crap, guys. You've got to fix this. I want more than 12 authorizations a year, and we all agree instead of
oh boy. Yeah, believe me, I'm ready to. We'll get into this in a second, but you're so right. By the way, everybody listening, I got to put my money where my mouth is. I owe Jeff like a diagram and a couple pictures of how I do my road kit.
well,
I just realized I forgot to do
far
that.
beyond
But
talking trash or anything like that, Pete.
yeah. And I know you weren't saying that to me, but it does remind me
Yeah.
that I owe you that because I do want to help, and we do help each other. It's funny. In August, part of this whole thing, the last time my authorizations ran out. Um, it's funny. The VA said, "Hey, your authorizations for your back stuff ran out," and so my doctor said, "Hey, let me just put a new one in for you. We all know this is going to fail, but whatever." And then the VA called me and like, and by the way, I live in Orange County, 3.5 million people here, so a lot of veterans. They're like, "We hired a new masseuse, so we're going to call you and set up an appointment. It's going to be no problem at all." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, let's work within the system." Masseuse. And so they call, "Bring, yes, hi, Pete, are you there? Yeah, we'd like to set up an appointment." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, great. When's it going to be?" And this is in late July. "How about October?" And I'm like, "How about no? Let's send me over to community care." Like, this is the whole thing. That's all this dance, right? I have to go through this stupid dance. And so then I, and so for everybody listening, if it's more than 30 days, you have to get referred out to community care. And community care puts me back to where I was originally. So my masseuse who knows my body. And I'm like, that sounds great. Send me over to community care. So they refer me over to community care. And then my referral just goes into a black hole, which is what always happens. And nobody calls me to say, "Hey, Pete, so much for your community care referral. We're going to deny it." No one ever says that. So I have to let all this stuff happen in the blind. And then I have to call up and be like, "Hey, about 3 weeks ago, someone was going to call me back, but no one ever fucking did." So this whole fucking thing gets crazy. So
It is.
I'm sick of that. I was thinking that because, by the way, I have PTSD, and one of my benefits of PTSD is that I get suicidal. I want to kill myself. I'm not going to, but this kind of bullshit makes me want to die, right?
Yeah.
And so,
The thought runs through
you
your
know,
head and it just, all this doesn't help.
yeah. And they create this emotion. So I'm like, you guys put me in a dangerous place. Stop doing this to me on purpose. Like look what your system does. And so I started a congressional, and I get a hold of my Congress member. Her name is Young Kim. Young Kim, if you're listening, you have not gotten back hold of me. I started congressional in August. Here's how much contact I have had from my congressional member on my congressional request for an investigation. None. None. And I'm allowing her to fail because I want the system to fail. Because then I'm going to go talk to the military members of Congress that I personally know, Mike Waltz, Eli Crane. Look, I'm going to get a hold of these guys. These guys are veterans, right? And I'm going to be like, why is this so broken? Like, I need you guys to understand that I went through all the channels in the VA. I went to my congressperson who fucking failed me, you know, and I'm just going to be like, how many of these doors do I got to knock on? Or are you guys going to start banging on doors with me? Because I've gone on the patrols, right? And so these are the things that I'm just like, why am I the guy that has to go and fix all this shit?
Yeah.
Just give me a damn card that says Pete can go. We all agree Pete has a bad back. We all agree that Pete has PTSD. We all agree that we can't manage his care at a pace that makes any sense. Just here, Pete, go away. Here, we just need to figure out how to fix this stuff. Here I am complaining. You're supposed to be the guest. Got me all mad. Got me all mad.
It's okay. It's important stuff to talk about.
Yeah. Anyhow, I didn't know we were going down this rabbit hole, but sorry about that, man. I'm kind of hijacking your episode. Let's talk about you.
No, it's
I'm gonna
fine.
shut up.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
What's your show about, man? Tell us about your show.
So yeah, Course of Action, the Course of Action podcast. It's available on all the major platforms. I just started uploading to Rumble, so I'm getting some views on there as well. Yeah, man. So I interview a lot of veterans, a lot of veteran small business owners, a lot of veteran authors, a lot of thriller authors. I'm really looking for people who have kind of, wrote their own story. So I'm looking for that. I'm really looking for people who are doing stuff like that. So I enjoy it. I really love having people on that are doing big things, and I like promoting and celebrating them.
And you're also writing your own stuff. I'm going to just put a couple of links up here so when you guys go check it out. Jeff is also doing his own writing, his own.
Yep.
I'm putting a link up just to his nonfiction thing, but there's fiction books coming too. But you've got some incredible people on your show. You've just done a rebrand, relaunch of your website, and the world is great where we can create and go out and celebrate a variety of different authors. I've been on your show and I appreciate that, but there are, as much as like Hollywood is struggling to try to redefine itself again, there are all these people that are like, hey, I can go out and do this. I can go out and raise money. I can go out and write something. I can go out and grab a little community and create a new product. And you're doing that right now.
Yeah, man, we're trying to do a lot of different things. Trying to get some fiction going. I'm working with some pretty serious editors right now. Got some attention from the publishing world regarding it. So I'm hoping that sometime this year, early next year, we'll have some big news to spread, and we'll kind of get into a little bit more of that fiction world. In the meantime, I'm going to continue to do my thing, having discussions like this, and building the community.
Yeah. The ability to create things outside of books is also opened up too. I mean, there's production houses looking to try to find the next, platform and make something. There's so many streaming services that are trying to stand out and at least launch the next property, right? Because like football games are on a streaming service. Everybody's trying to gather audience, and so that creates opportunity for everybody. Because there's, I don't know how many streaming services there are, but there's more than 20 that are buying up properties.
Oh, easy. I mean, we cut cable and then we wind up, we probably have 6 or 7 different streaming services that we belong to now. I got like 2 of them with my cell phone plan for free. Like they're giving it away. They want you to jump on it. And of course, different shows are exclusive to different streaming services. So if you want to watch what you want, you got to go subscribe to them. And
Right.
it's the nice to have the convenience and
Mhm.
the selection of it. Like I can watch what I want to watch, as opposed to cable. You know, you pay a $200 bill for 500 channels and you don't want to watch 180 of them. You know,
If
it's kind
yeah,
of, yeah, if that, I mean,
if that many.
it's kind of nice to be able
Yeah.
to watch
Yeah.
what you want to watch.
Yeah. But you're also able to gather authors and gather ideas and gather IP and then collaborate with those guys. Because one of the problems that I've realized is that you can write incredible things. I've just got a whole row of books, and because I've got a show, I can invite authors on, and I can say, "Hey, who are you working with to get your story told next?" And they're like, "Ah, I don't know those people. I write books. That's what I do, Pete. I write books." And I'm like, "What if we worked on something?" And they're like, "Let me know when you find something to do. Like let me know when you got a problem. And that's that next level, right? It's like you find a way to get to that next person who can make a decision to create something. And that is one of the powers of these shows. It's yeah, you can write courses, yeah, you can sell books, you can do all kinds of things, but also we can network into places where things get made.
Yeah, I think that's the rise of the veteran entrepreneurs was fueled heavily by people who did just that. They said, "Hey, I got a t-shirt company." I think Black Rifle Coffee is maybe one of the best examples because at the time, those guys were all doing kind of different things. One of them was doing video production, another one was doing some stuff on YouTube. Another one wanted to do coffee, and they all kind of got together in the same room and said, what if we came up with a t-shirt company? What if we did coffee? And what if we combined all of our video production and YouTube stuff
Right.
and we used that as our advertising? And then they launched like that. And it was a culmination of good ideas and interests. And then it turned into one of the biggest coffee companies in the world. You
Yeah.
could argue that.
Oops.
So, you know, uh, good conversations in
Yeah.
a room just like this, at the bar over a beer can really flourish into things. I think if people have the right drive and the right dedication to do so.
When you're looking at potential partners to do things with your show and your reach, what are you looking for?
I'm looking for people that are serious, some people that want to promote it too, because as much as I use my platform to promote other people, you got to do part of the work. That means you got to retweet, you got to take the post, and you've got to make it a big deal because it has to be about you. So you've got to brag. And I think for some authors
Mm,
that's difficult because they tend to be introverted type of folks. And they
yeah.
don't want to talk about themselves. Like I don't necessarily want to talk about myself either. It feels like I'm bragging and I just don't like that. But
Yeah.
you have to do that. You have to be the marketing machine, the PR machine. Even if you work at a big publisher who
Yeah.
has a publicity team and an advertising team, they're not yelling your name to the heavens. They're finding you opportunities because you are a return on their investment. You still have to go on to platforms like this and talk about your book and talk about you. You still have to be the subject. So they can't do it all
Mhm.
for you. And so whether you're at a big publisher or you're self-publishing, the standard remains the same. You have to be able to talk about yourself. So I'm looking for folks who are willing to say, here's my product. I want to talk about it. I'm an expert in X, Y, and Z, and I want to
Right.
talk about that. And I'm going to brag about it. We're going to do this together. And I'm going to be more than
Yeah.
a guest. I'm going to be a collaborator.
One of the big things is you have to be salesman of the year for your company. You've got to be the top marketer. You've got to be the top networker. You can never get sick of talking about your project. You have to have you like, oh, what's next? Oh, let me tell you what's next. And then you got to get even more excited. You're like, wow, this guy's stoked on his stuff. Like you have to be because the publishing house is on to project next all the time because unless there's energy in a project, they are required to move on because
Yeah.
they don't live in the past.
Yeah.
And
They
so
got to
you
keep the
have to
lights on.
be they got to keep the lights on and they got to keep they're on a 3 to 6 month schedule that's always in the future. And if you're in the present with them, you're in the past.
Yeah. You've got to be, like so many big authors I've talked to, by the time their current release comes out, they're 50% through the next project and
Right.
they have a deadline. I went and saw Mark Greaney talk live here in Oklahoma. He came to Tulsa last year for his last book. And
Yeah.
He was like, "Excuse me, guys, I got to kind of refresh my memory a little bit because I
Uh-huh.
finished writing this book like 8 months ago, and I'm
That's right.
halfway through the next book. So I'm thinking my current writing, which is not going to come out for almost another year, but
Yeah.
it's due to the publisher in 4 months. And then I'm going to take a research trip in month 5. I'm going to come back in month 6 and 7 and do edits. And then I'm going to
Yeah.
turn it over to them. And then it'll be a 4 month wait for it to be released. So they're on
That's
like
right.
weird timelines as opposed to
Yeah.
us, the readers. So
Yeah.
you've got to be working. You have to constantly be working.
There's so much in this because people like think about writing a book, and if you think you can sit down as a rookie writer and write something that's going to matter, it does not. It does not matter. I hate to tell you this.
Yeah.
It is special. You should do it, but understand you're not special. And when like people say, Pete, you should write a book, and I'm like, you don't understand what it means to write a book, to take that swing and all that time out of my day when I really could just do something else. I'd go make more money at REI part time because it is really tough to get a book off the ground and have it matter. Because here is the God's honest truth: you write a book, and as soon as you publish it, and we'll say you get I've got friends I've got book agents. I can get a book sold, right, if it's good, and I should be able to write. And in this case, you're writing a good book. The second I get that book published, and it gets that first print, they don't want to print another run of it. I have to go and I got to go kick their ass to get them to print another run because they don't want books sitting around. I have to show them that I'm worth a second and third print. Otherwise, they will
Yeah.
be glad to go, oh, yeah, we'll do it. And then they won't. They'll passive aggressive. I swear to God, this is true. Everybody listen to me. They will not do it. You have to go in there. You got to wring their goddamn necks and be like, if you don't have a third printing going, you are going to hear it from me. I'm going to kick your asses. I'm out here hustling these books. I will sell them. You've got to convince them because they don't believe in you, because that's not what happens. That's not normal. So they're not going to sell your books with you. You have to force them to do it. That's how hard it is to sell books, right? And you see Jeff nodding his head. They will not go along the ride. You have to build this with them. That's what
Yeah.
it means to sell books. It's not as easy and automatic. It's not a movie. This thing is, it's real. Like you actually have to go out and you've got to wring necks. You got to sell them out of the back of your cars. You got to go on speaking engagements. You got to say, you're going to buy 200 of my books. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to sit for 2 hours. I'm going to sign every book. I'm going to shake every hand, and you're going to go out. You're going to nug it out and sell these books. That's what it takes. That's what it takes.
Yeah. And it's not about the first book. It's about the third and the fourth book, because
Yeah.
what you do, if you can make it that far and you can do a
Yeah.
third and a fourth book, the residuals from people finding you and discovering you and go, oh, this is this guy's fourth book. He has 3
That's right.
other ones. So you turned 1 book sale into 4. Like that's the magic.
Yeah.
And that's what publishers want to see is how much do you have in a pocket? Like the editor that I'm working with right now, that was something he said. He was like, what do you have for book 2? Are you working on book 2 at all? I said, yeah, I got about 50% of it outlined, and this and that. And he's like, you need to have it done. Like we need to be able to work on that this year, because when we go talk to publishers and agents, you having that kind of product that we can pitch to them, it makes it so if they want to give you a 2 or 3 book contract and you only have 1 book idea to present to them, they're going 33% gamble on this guy. But if you say, I have book 2 done, it needs to be edited and looked through, and then I have book 3 outlined, oh, this guy's got his shit together. Oh, we can put him on the schedule and give him a timeline, and he's not going to be stretching. Like he's got the foundation laid out down the road. Of course, things change, but you have it together. You have the game plan, and they want to see that, because if they know, because then they can buy off on that and they can say, okay, it's worth a 3 book deal because we love these 2 ideas. He's working on the third. We like it too, or it's decent and we can work on it. They have something to work with as opposed to just pitching them an idea and saying, this is what I'd like to write about. Nobody wants to hear about what you'd like to write about. They want to see something in flesh, because again, they're going to be printing books. They're going to be selling them to bookstores, and they don't want them back. They don't want them back. They don't want them back, and you don't want them back either, because I've heard a lot of things about the way they go into bookstores. Is if a publisher has to get those books back, do you think they're absorbing that cost? They're not. They're passing that on to the author and saying, "These are your books, buddy.
You didn't sell these."
Yeah. So you've got to. It's a hustle, man. So doing printing on demand, and things like
Mhm.
that. That's why self-publishing is so popular right now, because people can maintain
Yeah.
all the control and all the risk, or as little of the risk as they want. But you got to
Yeah,
hustle.
yeah, and you gotta hustle, right? You always gotta hustle, and the other thing is when we're talking about all this in all these conversations is, again, salesman of the year, the head of the marketing department, the head of the PR department, like, and you've got to be able to say, "This book is it's gonna drive this much revenue, and I'm gonna spend that much revenue on PR, on marketing, because all that money that comes in, it's gotta go right back out, and you gotta go work, and so I've gotta work today, I've gotta do this, I've gotta do these PR hits, I've gotta, you have to exist, and you need to write, and you need to exist, like you need to breathe, and you'll make the money later on, because like you said, you've got to front load that's what it means to exist in the writing world, though. And then once you establish yourself and you have an audience, if you're that lucky, which is now, like, we've gotten super peaky on the mountain, like, oh, you have an audience, oh, look at you. Now you can just work your heart out trying to write and satisfy an audience, right?
Well,
And
you should be
that,
a brand. You should
yeah.
be a brand. You should be Jeff Clark. You should be Pete Turner. And then I have a podcast. I have a book. I have a Substack. I write in articles, and I have a blog. Like, you should have all these other things that have potential to get you more audience, build a community, or make you money to some
Nice.
degree.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
um, my buddy Ryan Steck's a really good example of that.
Yeah.
He's the real book spy, and he's an author now, but he used his book spy platform to promote other authors. He has affiliate links so that, when
Yeah.
people click on his reviews and go to Amazon that buy a book, he's built his brand into a business. And then a book is now another extension, and it validates what he does. He's the
It sure
thriller
does.
book spy, and he can write a thriller. That's validation. Like, you've got to build the brand and then do all these
Yeah.
different things as an extension. And Jack Carr's a great example too. He's built the brand. The brand
Yeah.
his brand is probably worth millions. It's got to be.
Oh, yeah.
Easily.
Yeah. Well, he is a writer, but more than anything now, he's an executive producer, right?
Yeah.
And so he's a guy that people bring ideas to. So yes, he writes, and that's probably what pays the bills. But he now is someone that sits back and takes meetings and goes, yeah, maybe,
Mhm. He's selling
and
t-shirts and hats and stuff off of his website like it's nobody's business.
yeah, yeah,
Name another
yeah.
author who drops a fall collection on their website. Fall clothing collection.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody does that.
No, he's a lot harder to get a hold of, and that's not a knock on Jack. He's a lot harder to get a hold of because his time is a lot more valuable.
Busy dude.
Now, and
I know his
it's not
publicist, so
yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna
He
have
is
him
very
on the
busy.
show this year. And I talked to his publicist and I said, "What's the odds
Yeah.
of getting Jack?" He said, "Yeah, he hit me up about a month before his book release. We'll make it happen."
Yeah,
Wow.
I don't know that I can get him this year, and I've had him on a couple of times, and it's very competitive, right? Like, I'm trying to think, like, how am I going to get him on the show this year? Because the last time he's like, Pete, I'm so sorry, we have out of time, and I'm like, God damn, and normally I'm positioned well. I got edged out, and I was like, wow, I really have missed the boat. So it's crazy, and that was never the case before. Like, he just became supernova, and it's
he's
not
huge.
because of the writing; it's because of the terminal list going supernova, and so he has become something giant, and good for him. It's
Oh yeah.
it's
I'm not
it's
mad at him
remarkable.
all.
Yeah,
In fact,
no,
I'm jealous.
come on. Yeah. Matter of fact, I had, as I'm doing my own PR and everything, my PR person said, what famous veterans have you interviewed? And I'm like, I don't know what people consider a famous veteran, but I for sure put Jack Carr on there, and because that's famous, and it's like,
I mean,
hey,
he's a
there you go.
household name. I knew he was a
Yeah.
big deal when I heard him on the local radio here in Enid, Oklahoma, small town, Oklahoma. I heard him
Yeah.
on the talk show radio. Not him, but I heard about his name on the radio. They were talking about the terminal list like 3 weeks after it released on Amazon. And they're like, have you heard about this terminal list thing? This guy, this book,
Yeah.
this Navy SEAL who wrote this book? Like, they were talking about it like it was brand new to them. And I was like, dude, you've made it when small town radio like this is talking about you, because they're consumed by the book and the show and all that. Like, you've just broken into a whole new audience. Like, you're
That's right.
another level. Like, when all 5 of your books are in the airport bookstore in almost
It's
every
different.
airport that I've gone to, you're a different level.
And I would say that's even a different level than like Jocko's at that level, but I would say Jack has even reached a higher level because he's just much more part of. Jocko is there because he's the seal. Jack has reached that level because he has created something that's bigger than Jack.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Jocko is Jocko. Jocko
Right,
has
right,
he's
right,
created his Jocko brand. People know Jocko. He's
right.
got the products, but like that's what they think people expect of him.
Yeah,
Jack
right,
created the brand, which launched into something like, yeah, he's a Navy SEAL, but he's Jack Carr. There's a
right.
difference. Jocko's a
Yeah,
Navy SEAL. Jocko's a motivator. He's the workout guy. He's the no excuses. Like you know what to expect from Jocko. But Jack
yeah,
was the author, and then Jack became Jack Carr, the brand,
yeah,
which
yeah,
is yeah, he is. I told a buddy of mine a while back. I said nobody other than Tom Clancy is going to do anything closely remote to what Jack did because Clancy had all the different IP in the video games and in the movies. Said, but I don't know if Clancy ever had T-shirts and all that stuff. Of course, different phase, different time period too.
yeah, yeah,
We're doing
yeah,
online commerce now, but if you look at it in perspective, like that's what Clancy
yeah,
was doing back then with all the
yeah,
different IP he had. And
yeah,
now you have Jack doing the same thing in all the different forms of media that we have,
yeah,
plus online commerce and all that. Like you're talking about the 1% of the 1%. Like nobody else is probably ever
yeah,
going to touch this. This is a generational type of thing, just like Clancy was. No,
yeah,
no, nobody was doing video games back then. You had a
yeah,
book turned into a video game. Like
yeah.
nobody was doing that, but Clancy did.
Yeah. Clancy owned the Orioles as well, so it's pretty fucking
Yeah.
good. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
pretty
the
fucking
the
good.
amount of money that man had in his estate when he
Oh,
unfortunately passed away and
yeah,
how big it actually was
yeah.
was off just absolutely impressive. Like I
This
cannot
is
believe you
mind
really put
blowing.
it in perspective how
Yeah.
big of a deal he
It
was.
does bode well for Jack and where Jack goes, though. I mean, it is
Oh yeah.
incredible. Since we're talking about Clancy, also let's not go back past Andrews and Wilson again. Friends of mine who've been on the show a bunch of times, and Ryan Steck just said, "Oh shit, this sequel to Hunt for Red October is coming out," and
It
he just
sounds
gave this
amazing.
huge. It does, and again, this goes to Ryan's credit, his bona fides and his glowing report. So and see, again, I'm on the inside with these guys, and so I send a text to Andrews and Wilson, and I'm like, "Hey, fellas." I saw Ryan's thing. I need my advanced copy. And then as soon as I get it, I read it. We're going to do a show, because that's how great Ryan is at this stuff, and I
Yeah.
instantly lifted up Ryan's tweet because I want to support Brian and Jeff because I love those dudes. And, I'm like, how can I support these guys? And they are also on this rocket ship. And hopefully they'll attach onto somebody. Maybe Jack picks them up. Who knows, right? But I mean, it's amazing. And by the way, not the only author I know that writes in the the Tom Clancy universe, because I also know Jerome Preisler. And all of a sudden you realize, man, I know all these people
Yeah.
because I have this show, and you're in the same world where like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I know Ryan. Oh my God, I don't know if you know Anderson Wilson. If you don't, we'll
I
fix
do.
that.
I've
But
had him on twice, and then they told me
yeah,
last year they're like, "Dude, in the spring, hit us up. We'll come back on. We'll do our
yeah,
book 4 minutes again, and the sandbox we did last year." And yeah, they're fantastically supportive, and they offered
yeah.
up their time like no problem. Like, and I was like, okay, I don't have their phone numbers, but I got their emails. So,
Whatever.
uh,
I mean, that's easy to fix, right? And it's not like it's a big secret, but and I'm not saying that to name drop, but that is the world you can live in when you have a show. And so when people think, so one of the things a lot of people ask me like, hey, I want to do a podcast. I'm like, really, you shouldn't. I mean, unless you just want to like work your ass off and get nowhere. Like this is a really hard thing to do. But you get the benefit of knowing Anderson Wilson. You get the benefit of knowing Jack Carr, or Jeff Clark, or all of these different people. There is that benefit, but you have to turn that into some kind of value, right? And
yeah,
that is one of the hard parts of this. And but the journey is incredible, and you do get to know these people. His name escapes me right now, but the guy that wrote all the Longmire books,
mm,
I've got that guy's number. And whenever he writes something, which he has, I can text him and be like, hey man, you want to come on and talk about that book? And his answer will be, yeah, Pete, let's do it. And we'll do that show. And so you add all these people to this. We're just talking authors, musicians, whatever it's going to be. You and I get to gather these people into a tribe and just share all this stuff and support one another. And it really is a beautiful thing that we get to create these kind of worlds.
yeah. It's awesome. I love doing it. I love talking to folks, talking about their trade. Plus, I get to pick their brain a little bit, and it's nice that you get to operate in kind of the same space.
Hmm.
So you get to take their knowledge from them as they're kind of giving you their time, and you get to do something with it, which is really important to me because as someone who wants to write in the genre, if I get to sit here and listen to Andrews and Wilson talk about how they crafted their next Clancy book or their very first Clancy book, and how they crafted their other ones. It's cool to get to do that because then you get to hear from the experts. These guys have had plenty of
Right.
success, and they're only going to have more success. I have no doubt about it with what they've been saying about their Clancy book. I think it's going to be huge.
Yeah, Craig Johnson, by the way, is the author of Longmire. And again, these are guys that are trying to sell books. And so you're
Mhm.
like, hey, Craig, I know you got a new book out. Love to talk about it. And Craig's like, I don't got to do anything. I can just sit at my house in Wyoming and just talk about my book.
Sure.
Okay, Pete, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just easy, right? And then sometimes, like yesterday, I had a guy on my show. So I come from an area where the Zodiac Killer killed people. And the author of the most recent book that came out just 2 weeks ago, his name's Dale Julin, and he comes from the same area. He's like a full generation older than me, but I'm like, why don't you come back to Benicia, where I'm from, and do a book event? And he's like, yeah, let's see if it makes sense, And I'm like, I can't put a bunch of money in your pocket, but you can come to the place where Zodiac Killer killed people, and you talk to people that were alive back then, and they'll probably buy books. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to come and see my sister, and so why don't we attach a book event to it? So now I've created value for my hometown. I've created value for Dale, and maybe that turns into something, maybe not, but it's a solid seed planted in the ground where I've created an event and that just turns into things, right? Like that just turns into, hey, remember when Pete did that thing? I wonder if he could. And then that turns into an opportunity also to drive revenue at times, and not all the time, but not everything has to turn into something. But it's just these repetitions that equal things. And so,
Yeah.
and I'm kind of talking to the audience, but when you create these events, when you create these small community things, they just create goodwill, they create opportunity, and they create attention where people are like, oh, that's right. Pete, you would think my show would be huge in my hometown. It's just not. Some people know it. They're like, they'll be
Yeah.
like, oh, do you do that thing
Mine
still? I'm
isn't.
like, yeah, 10 years later. Yeah, I do it still. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, I should watch it more often. And they don't, which is fine. But you try to create these things. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just,
Yeah.
it's goodwill.
Yeah, you're creating value for someone else, and you never know who's listening. You just absolutely never know who's listening, who says, "I love this. I want to be a part of it." And
Yeah.
an opportunity knocks when you're not expecting it to. So you've got to do everything like you love it and like you want to put the passion into it. Because again, you don't know who's listening. You don't know who's going to come online tomorrow. We don't know who's listening right now.
That's right. Hey, everybody. If you're watching and listening, you should go check out Jeff's site. Let me put this up here for you.
Sure.
Bam. When you're writing, what's your style? Are you an iron ass guy? Are you go for a walk, think of something up, and spit it out, and then go for a walk? Or how would you characterize your style, or do you even know what it is yet?
So my fiction style, I think, is a lot of putting ideas down on paper and then seeing where they fit into the larger plot, the larger narrative,
Okay.
what I'm trying to say. Um, so I'm a bit of an outliner, but I found that it's such a loose outline that
Hmm.
it kind of just gives me a vector to go towards,
Okay.
and then from there I'll the juices start flowing, and then I'll go towards a target, and then I might get moved off from that target because through the process of being creative, I find another idea and go, ooh, that's juicy, or ooh, that's a
Hmm.
twist that just came naturally. So then I just let it flow organically. um
Hmm.
this first book that I wrote that I'm working on getting published now was rewritten 5 times because it was just trying to get to where it felt like the story was organically me. It was what I wanted. It didn't feel pushed. It
Hmm.
felt good. And I just kept
Yeah.
going. I'm going to rewrite this. I don't like this plot twist. I'm going to twist it around and do this. And I just did that. It was my creative space in front of the computer. And um, I'm not really good at putting stuff down and then walking away from it. Like I gotta kind of get it out on paper, even if it's crap, and get it down and written down, and then I can walk away from it, and then I can come back later and go, "This was a great idea, but I need to fix all this stuff." That's how I do it.
Yeah. No, I get. And do you feel like that's still evolving? That you'll have a different answer 2 years from now?
No, because of my attention span and I deal with some anxiety stuff from active duty.
Sure.
So for me, I got to get it out, or I'll just sit here and dwell on it.
Yeah.
So I need to get it out of my system, even if I just sit down for 2 minutes and write it down on a note card or type,
Yeah.
notes in my phone, or if I sit down here and I write it down and I go work on it for half an hour to 3 hours. I think that's just me. I think that's how I'm wired.
Yeah.
That's how I wrote my first book.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just did it in spurts, and that's the way it kind of went, the way the chapters are broken down in that book. I just did it in spurts, and I think that's what just creatively came to me the best.
My cat's here. What is worse, a twist of fate or a fated twist?
Ooh. I think it depends on your perspective. A twist of fate could be good or bad. It's kind of like the glass half full or half empty, So I would say a twist of fate, because you don't know what that's going to be. A fate is. It's not necessarily a bad thing.
But a fated twist, like when I think about a fated twist, because we're turning a phrase here, right? Is like in Apocalypto, where you go through this whole ride, and then here come the conquistadors. Mm-hmm. Like all of this no longer mattered. Everything has changed, and this twist was fated, and you're like, wow, we just changed the whole nature of this movie. Like, goddamn. And it can be really dark where you're like, everything changed,
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know, I always think about these sayings. You're like, what is good for the goose is good for the gander, but is what's good for the gander good for the goose? Like in these, like when you change things around and move perspective around in stories, I just find it to be a very powerful device. It's when I think about these things, like a song, and you just change the camera's perspective, a song can be a completely different thing.
Yeah, I was watching a video the other day of Christopher Nolan, big time director of the Batman movies and Oppenheimer, and he was explaining how he writes a story, and he wrote a U shape on its side on a board, and then he wrote arrows, and like the top part was going back, like it was going back towards the past, and then the bottom part was like it was going around and it's circling back. And he was basically like, you have two different timelines moving like this, and then you have the U shape where they kind of meet in the middle, and there's something you have to do here. So you can tell a story in kind of different jagged ways, but your middle mark has to make a sense so that the audience puts it together. And just hearing him do it was like, that's just his way of storytelling and looking at different perspectives and different points of view, and moving the camera around. And you can do that in life and your creative projects, however you want to do it. But it's just looking at it from a perspective of, how am I always going forward by always focusing on now? It's just really cool.
Yeah. I think about like, I don't know if you know that song, Don't Take Your Guns to Town, by Johnny Cash.
Oh yeah.
It's about this young kid, and his mom's like, don't take your gun to town, son. Don't, leave your guns at home, Bill. Don't take your gun to town. If you told that song from like the point of view of his girl who's in town, and he has to go fight for her, and he's like, I've got to go do this, and it's either going to work out or it doesn't, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
Totally different song. And it's just like, wow, and it's just one of these things like where you can just change everything by just altering time, and it's like you get a different point of view. You're like, oh, that's why he did that. He wasn't being foolish.
Yeah. I love it when a book does that. I read a book. I read a book by Jennifer Rose, and she's a big author, and it was called "You Shouldn't Have Come Here." And the cover is very dark. It looks like it's going to be dark. And then you start to read, and it reads like kind of like a little thrilling rom-com. And there's some twists in there, but nothing that's too crazy that doesn't make you go, oh, whoa. And there's just some little twists. And you start pointing at the bad guys. Like, I think he's bad. Oh, well, maybe she's bad. Maybe she's the actual bad one. It's just a lot of finger pointing throughout the whole book. And it's kind of rom-com-y. And then it gets to the end. And at the very, very end, I mean, we're talking the last couple of paragraphs, it's revealed who the bad guy was the whole time, changes the whole book. What you think changes the whole thing, and you go, oh, I love that. I love that
Yeah.
in a book because then that really makes you go, wow, everything I thought I knew, they really got me. And that's the thrill that I like personally.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah, and just like you can always go back to the Greeks because they were so great at that
Mhm.
tragedy thing, where you love a woman so much you want to bring her back from the dead, and there's a vehicle to do it. And they're like, but you can't do it. I mean, it's possible, but don't do it.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, no, I love her too much, got to do it. And they're like, don't do it. And he's like, nah, I'm gonna go do it and do it. And then he does it, and you're like, oh, by the way, your kid, you got to kill your kid. Sorry, you're like,
Yep.
and it's just like these classic things where there's a cost, or like you get your wishes, but the wishes are never what you want them to be, and
Yeah.
it's just all of these things where, yeah, they're great story devices, they're classics, yeah, it's wonderful. What who else are you reading right now? Like, what are you anybody interesting that you're reading right now?
I'm reading a book by an author named Adam Sykes. And Adam
Hmm.
has a book called The Underhanded. It's going to come out this spring. Sometime he sent me an advance copy. Um, I just read Steck's Out for Blood. And that
Okay.
was really good. I really liked that. So appreciate him sending me an advance copy. I got plans to read Mark Greaney this next month and Jack Stewart.
Jack Stewart's got a new one out. Yeah.
Jack's got a new one coming out in February. I think in the February, very first March, something like that. Um, so yeah, I like reading some of these big guys. I mean, Brad Thorne's my favorite author.
Yeah.
So I always look forward to the summer because Brad's going to drop a new one. But yeah, Mark Greaney, Jack Stewart, and I'm reading Adam Sykes' book right now because I'm about to have him on the podcast to release it later this spring.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many new books coming. It is actually hard to read all the books
Oh
that
yeah,
get tossed our way. It really is. It's unfortunate that I can't actually consume them all. I could technically probably read them all, but I can't actually process them fast enough. It's just I don't read as fast as I used to with the written word. I can listen to them, but I'm really just burning through them if I do that.
yeah,
And just taking out really what I'm doing is I'm consuming a portion of the book so that I can talk about what I want to talk about is really what's happening.
yeah.
On occasion I'll get a chance to really chew through, but it's just uh, it's a great problem to have, all of these books that we get
Oh
that get
yeah,
thrown at
it's,
us.
it's a
Yeah.
fantastic problem to have.
Yeah.
And I don't ever want to tell somebody no when they want to send me something because it's kind of a
Yeah, of
compliment.
course,
Like
of course. Yeah.
I'd like to send you a book. Like they
Hmm.
actually value my opinion and want to know, but at the same time, it's like, oh man, I do
Yeah.
have a lot going on, and it's hard to. But I do try to make an effort to read through at least some of something before I have somebody
Yeah.
on the show. Um, that way I know them. I'm familiar with them. We have some unique
Yeah.
talking points, and I can help them talk about their product a little better by asking some innovative questions and doing a few spoilers here and there just to, you know, the tease.
Yeah, yeah, and I do my best to, if at all possible, buy the book myself and or
Yeah.
buy it for someone else. What do you do with the pile of books? Because I got to tell you, on my end, I get too many to keep them all, and I have to do something with them. So I do my best to give them out to friends, but I can't keep up with that, and I have to donate some of these books.
Yeah, if it's an ARC, it's any kind of advanced copy that has things that are not corrected in it. I keep those.
Of
So
course, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
don't put that product out there. But
right.
any books that are like a final version that I get, if I don't necessarily want to keep it because again I don't have a ton of room either. Um,
Mhm.
I wish this room here had just walls of shelves on it, and then I would just build a
Yeah,
huge library and I keep everything. But I donate a lot of them to local library. There's a take a book, leave a book type of thing, a couple of those here in town, and then I try to
mhm.
leave them on the little magazine racks and stuff like that in tables at the VA. I just leave them.
There you go. Yeah, yeah. I
And
try to find good uses for them. There's always someone I can give a book to. You're right, and I do try to find good homes for them as much as possible. But sometimes I just get so far behind. I'm like, I've got to get, I've got to do something with these books. I just
yeah,
got so many of
I
them.
think there's a
Yeah.
dang, I can't remember the name of it. There's some kind of operation. I can't remember what it's called, but they do. they do a thing for veterans and for active duty where you can donate your books and then you can go onto like their website and they print off like shipping labels and stuff like that, and then you ship them overseas to active duty folks.
Oh, that's cool.
I've done
Yeah,
that a
that's
few
fun.
times. I can't remember the name of it though.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, well, that's a good service. I'll have to look into that. Yeah, and then like right now I have access to some elder homes folks, so I can always take them there and say, "Here's some books," and then they can take them and read them and
Yeah,
everything.
that's good too.
I've had you for almost an hour, man. What do you want to get into before we go? What's striking your fancy today?
Man, I don't know. I think I've been looking at a lot of different marketing and advertising lately, and kind of looking at um, search engine optimization and getting those keywords
Yeah,
and building all that. Because I think a lot of people think, well, I'll just post some stuff on YouTube and it'll go viral, and that's not the case. You've really got to know what you're
not the
doing now.
case. Yeah.
Like, um,
Oh my god.
so I've really been looking at that and building YouTube up, and getting a lot of building the community over there. So um, I think a big thing I've been looking at lately is a lot of marketing, and a lot of
Yeah.
advertising, and trying to find the right audience, because you
It's
always got to
very
build
tough.
that.
It's very tough on YouTube. And I do as much as I can with those folks. They're like, I'm in their little community of like, hey, will you talk to us about stuff? And I, my advice to them is always the same: get off the air hose, like let me exist, because you can put all the SEO in there you want. I'm not dogging like what you're trying to do, but if they won't allow me to be searchable for my own name, even like I had to fight just to exist for my own name and be like one of the top places where my own name worked. It's like, oh, come on, you guys, you got to
Yeah.
stop like smashing me. But yeah, it's tough. It is really, really tough. And then they change. Like, well, we changed everything. Like, well, what did you change it? Like, I'm really hard on YouTube as we broadcast on YouTube because they are not a very good business partner. They'll lights out your business, be like, oh, sorry, we made a mistake. And I'm like, sorry, you made a mistake. That comes with the check. Like, hey, sorry, we made a mistake. Here's $5,000. We didn't realize we turned your business off for a couple of days. Like these things happen, but they don't have to. So I'm really tough on them. And it is an interesting thing where they want to make a great platform for you, but they don't listen to you. They don't
And they
engage
want to
with
do
you.
it at their pace and on their
Yeah. Their
schedule, and they're on
communicate.
their,
Yeah.
they don't want certain content. They say, oh, you can't do that. You can't put that on here. Well,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I can have my
Yeah.
own platform, I have my own brand and all that, but I have to have it according to your perfect
Yeah.
guidelines. And if that's opinion based, I can't talk about what I want to talk about, which is a
Yeah,
limited
and you
freedom of
can't like pick
speech.
up the phone and call your partner. Hey, what's up? How are
Yeah.
you? Here's what I'm thinking about doing. Or, because I'm glad to not break any kind of rules or be
Yeah.
controversial if that's what it's required. But you have to talk to me about what that's going to be. And
Yeah.
then let's
It
make a
can't,
decision.
the needle can't
Yeah.
move from day to day depending upon what's going on in the world or who's, up for
Mhm.
election or any of that crap. Like, you've got to have a
Yeah.
standard and say, hey, this is the line, don't cross it.
Yeah.
And then let people have some freedom of speech, because I think that's what the world is. It's what's
Yeah.
beautiful about the world.
When I so I'll put a short out and it'll go boop, straight up in a line, and then it'll go boop, and I'll see where my ceiling is, where Pete is allowed to go. And this has nothing to do with anything political. This is just the machine. It'll go boop, straight line, straight across, and I'm like, aha, that's where my line is. That's all I'm allowed. And
Yeah.
then I just go straight across. And I'm like, see, this is where my problem comes in is you allow me this much at this time, and it's never this time, it's never that time. And the time that's always this one time. And then that's it. That video is now dead. Like that, if you're going to artificially stomp on me, then tell me that and tell me what it takes for me to bypass. Is it money? Okay, great. Because when I put money in, then I get like this artificial bump that just disappears. So, all right, well, what what are we doing, right? And so like you do put the SEO in, and I just flatline, nothing there. Like, okay, I've spent all this time trying to fix the SEO thing, and you don't give me the benefit of that. I put money in. Straight across. All right. Well, what is it now? I follow all the advice from all the things. I buy the services, and like you get it's like, oh,
Yeah.
what are we doing here? And so you try to like put it all together, and it's maddening. It really is maddening when you're trying to. And this goes for X and all the other services.
Yep.
They all want to be the right place, but um, they're not good partners. They're not good partners.
Yeah. I think what I've done, that I've tried to play the game a little bit is say, okay, if you're only going to let me have so much, as far as views on long form content, I'm going to put my long form content out there and I'm going to get, let's say, 100 views on a video. And then I'm
Yeah.
going to turn that long form content into 4 to 6 shorts. And those
Yeah.
shorts are all going to average 100 to 2,500 views a piece. So
Yeah.
if that's what you're going to do and you're going to limit me, I'm going to turn 100 views into 6 or 7 thousand views by
Yeah.
playing the game that you've built.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna limit me and you're gonna give me a ceiling, even if it's a ceiling on my shorts views of 2,000
Yeah.
a piece, well then I'm gonna put 8 of them out and I'm gonna get 16,000 because that's what you're willing to give me, and
Yeah.
then I'm gonna do it like that. So if
Yeah.
you're not gonna,
Yeah.
because one video could go get 16,000 views and mean the same thing,
Right.
but you won't let me
Yeah.
do that. So I'm gonna do,
Right.
yeah, I'll have to put in the work and do 9 or 10 videos and I'll still get those
Right.
16,000, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. And I think that's just the
Yeah.
name of the game content wise. And that goes for every platform. Like I have a
Yeah.
buddy that's a self-published author who's doing the TikTok thing. And his most popular TikTok is a 50,000 view TikTok of him struggling to get the ball hitch off of the truck off of his truck.
Right. Right.
Not
Yeah.
his content about his books or any of his goofy
Never.
things about him being an author. That
Never.
stuff's done well, but it's not done 50,000 views.
Yeah.
That's his most popular one.
Yeah. 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 That's funny, right? Yeah. And you can put out something that's brilliant and timely. No.
Won't matter.
Won't matter. It's great. Kitty cat video. All right.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It's frustrating, but
It is. It is. Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
grind.
You could copy someone. You could take someone else's work and cut it and put it into a short with someone else's music, and it will do way better than an original thought.
Mhm.
That's God's honest truth. Yeah, it's funny. I don't want to be bitter about that. I mean, that's we do get the chance to do all these other great things, and find honestly, what I do is I just find my value elsewhere, and I put in the required amount of work on YouTube. And when YouTube chooses to allow me to be something, man, I'll spend more time there. But that's sort of my philosophy. Is after looking at YouTube for a long time and trying to sort it out, we're just not going to be business partners until they're a better partner. That's really what I've come to the conclusion, because I've tried the services, I've tried the hard work, and I've put in the hours and hours and hours. And like, I'm not someone that they see as valuable, and so I agree with them. I'm not valuable to them, so I don't see value in them, and I just work on other things that are valuable and that drive my business. And they're right. They are not worth my time, and I'm not worth theirs. And so we agree that I can do this, and they put things up, and we get along pretty good with that. And then if they decide that I'm valuable one day, all right, I'm glad to talk to them.
Yeah.
I make more money on participating in their surveys than I ever make on the channel. Like if I do one of those surveys a month, which is about what I get, I easily outpace the rest of it. But I get to do that because I have a channel.
Very cool.
Yeah. 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 All right. What else do you want to do before we go?
I don't know, man. What are you looking forward to in 2024? Let me ask you that.
Working on projects. I got a bunch of little big documentary projects. I'm trying to get them off of their knees and onto their onto their feet. And if I get them onto their feet, then they'll be walking. If I get them walking, then I can get them producing. If I get them producing, then I can get them done. And so it's not easy to do any of them. They're all a dream, but they all have real chances. They have air in their lungs, and if they have
That's
air in
awesome.
their lungs, I can get them on their feet. And if I can get them on their feet, I can get them walking. But at anytime, lightning can strike, and it can be good. Lightning can strike and be like, pow, pow, dead. So it's like, they all have what they need. They all have what they need to become something and end up getting done. But it is not easy. It is not easy. It is not for the lighthearted. I mean,
No,
this shit is
it's
terrifying and
a bit of luck.
crazy.
It's definitely a bit of luck. You got to strike when, a couple years ago, if you wrote a thriller book, a fiction thriller book that was anywhere remotely close to a Western, it was dead on arrival. And
Right.
then Yellowstone and Longmire, became more popular. And then it was like, okay,
Yeah.
then it was like, okay, feed us. CJ Box, Ryan Steck's doing, more of the Western thing. He was like, okay, feed us that
Yeah.
content because it's blowing up on television or on streaming,
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
so it, and Ryan had to wait a while. He had that developed, and it was just something that
Mhm.
wasn't going to hit. And then Hollywood put something out, and then it's a popular thing. So
Yeah.
I think if I gave anybody a piece of advice, it would be like, listen, it's the answer is never going to be right now. You've
Have
got to wait
ideas.
out.
Yeah.
You got to have ideas. You've got to wait out
Mhm.
society and wait out the culture and be
Yeah.
persistent and be ready when they call on you, because
Yeah.
tomorrow they could call on you for one of your ideas and you got to be able to produce it, because if they call on you it's because they want it, and you got to
Yeah.
be able to give it to them. You got to have the IP
Yeah.
and say it's yours.
I had Tony Toast, who wrote a lot of those episodes of Longmire. Like they didn't realize it, but he was the guy that had a PhD in poetry and knew how to write stories. And he grew up in a trailer park on the edge of a reservation. This is a humble guy. He worked in a pickle factory on his way up, and so I had him on the show. And man, just a marvelous guy, and he has a legit career. Like
Yeah.
he makes TV shows, but it is still not easy. Like you think, oh, like he had this amazing erupting and like became an executive producer like in no time because he knew that world and he got Craig's work. But even then, it's like he gets to do stuff, but it is not easy, and he has to pour all of his energy into it. And
Yeah,
there's no time for messing around. There's no time for mistakes.
because you'll be
He
replaced. You will
in a minute.
absolutely be replaced by the next thing that comes along that looks better.
Yeah,
Or if you show
yeah,
an inclination that you're going to fall off
yeah,
and you're going to tailor
yeah.
off or you're fizzling out, and they'll go, you're a liability. You got to go.
It's
That's
true,
why
man.
look at a lot of big comedians and stuff and people in Hollywood. Like there's people in Hollywood you don't hear from anymore.
Yeah. 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 It's not for the lighthearted. And a project might like Ford versus Ferrari. We had the guy that wrote that 10 plus years to get there.
Yeah.
And when he got there, he had to share the writing credit, you know? And so it's just not easy. It's not easy. And that, we talked to him on the show. It was like, yeah, I worked and I worked and I worked. It was a period piece. No one wanted to do it. No one wanted to do it. And then finally it all came together. And when it did come together, I still had to give up part of my money, part of my idea, you know?
You know what I think is going to happen, if I'm being honest?
Yeah.
Self-publishing has kind of launched and became a thing for people to say, you know
Mhm.
what? I don't want to wait on the creators to do this. I want to create my own stuff, and I'm not going to pitch it to them. I'm not going to give them the time of day. I'm going to invest in myself and self-publishing, promote, and all that. Yeah, it might not become a movie, but you know what's going to happen eventually? There's a lot of really good content out there that's not being seen by these big movie studios.
Yeah.
It's going to take
Yeah.
one of them to say, you know what we're going to do? We're going to launch a self-publishing type of thing for content
Mm.
creators, even if it's short form content. Like you want to do a 20-minute short movie, they're going to
Yeah.
start doing that. And then next thing you know, you're going to start seeing that kind of stuff get funding by the big
Yeah.
dogs, because they're going to want to reach down and get the story somehow.
There is a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of backlog of ideas that are unmade because the studios have been betting on. Look, the studios get ossified and they have to make the bets in a certain direction for a certain type of thing, and they don't aren't able to take the gambles they want to take, and so they haven't been able to keep up with the market in that way. And there's a lot of people out there like, I got $1 million for that. That sounds ridiculous, but that really is the case. Like you have people who are like, yeah, I want to see something good made, and they if they believe in your idea, because you've aligned the names, you've aligned the expertise, you have the energy for the project. Like, I'll give that a shot. Yeah, yeah, I'll do that because they can see where the money comes from. Then you take it to the streamers, and they're like, it's paid and made for. Yeah,
Well, in
we think this
technology
will pay
now,
for itself.
you could buy
Oh
a
yeah,
nice camera off of Amazon. You and your buddies can get together, and you know this because you're
oh
in
yeah,
that world. But you can put together a a small production if you're very
yeah.
very creative. I mean, people are shooting real time videos on their iPhones.
The production software is ridiculous. I
Yeah.
mean, you want to get above that level, but to get yourself going, it is ridiculous how
Hmm.
good you can make something. Yeah, it
Yeah.
really is amazing.
If you put the time
But I
in.
want to take you more of your time, man. It's been a great chat. Let's
Yeah.
let's do it again soon. We were rangy as hell. I started hollering about the VA, but
It's good stuff to
we
talk
ended up
about.
we ended up talking about self-publishing movies and shit. So I appreciate it. Anything in closing before I wrap it up?
No, man, thank you so much for coming on my podcast, and thanks for having me on here. I'd love to do it again. So anytime you need a voice or a guest, you know my email, man. Hit me up.
Too easy. All right, stand by.
Hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Right here, you can subscribe. Please do that. It makes the show grow. Hit that notification bell so you know which incredible guest is coming up next. Down below is the PayPal link. You can put a small subscription in. That is an enormous help. All that money goes right back into the show. And then right up over here are the next episodes you should listen to, curated by yours truly.